That's the purpose of this group, really, is to, yeah, form a powerful parenting group that is focused on a really progressive way of showing up in parenting and educating children, teenagers, but also younger. It basically starts from birth, if not before. So all of the stuff that I'm most excited about really applies to children of all ages. But you know, through my work, I work with 14 to 16-year-olds. It is quite related to the academic world. I'm very excited about education as well. Educational change, mostly, I would summarize that as. And I've basically been through this week. I've been through the last kind of 20 or 30 of you that have come into the group. So the newest members in the group, and the answers to the questions that you get before joining this group, just to see what I can speak to there, just in terms of our principal goals as a group of parents for our children, and for our parenting, and our principal challenges as well. What came up from all of you was motivation. That comes up again and again, especially with the teenagers. You know, I would just say there that there is something that we're fundamentally, kind of chronically doing wrong there, not as parents, not just as parents, but the way I've kind of come to look at it is education, parenting, and culture. So all three of those things, there's something we're doing when that all three of those things are doing wrong, when we have very demotivated individuals. Now, having said that, of course, the teenage years are years where the body's changing a lot. There's a lot of so-called laziness. I would never use that word, not for a young person or an adult. um, so yeah, I mean, of course, laziness does exist. So we can't be lazy, but usually it's for a reason. I basically feel like people who are lazy, it's anyway, it's just not a useful term for young people. Certainly, there's far too much of that talking about teenagers being lazy, when really they need a lot of time and space. They need a lot of rest, and yeah. So, but yeah, we want to see motivated children. Love of learning comes up again and again and again, and this is a great passion of mine, to help young people to find the love of learning through all of the noise that is even telling them that they shouldn't love learning. I mean, that I'm sure many of you can resonate with that. Somehow we've created a system, education, parenting, and culture, where we really have produced, like, it's almost like a formula that produces loss of love of learning, or something, and I've shared this before in this group, but there was a funny interview I saw with a home ed graduate, like he's 25-year-old violinist, and he was just talking about home education, and he just had this kind of witty and profound one liner where he said, the one thing we've discovered in life, that I'm gonna I'm gonna get this wrong now. Well, yeah, the only thing we've discovered that's like almost guaranteed to kill off love of learning is education, something like that. And there is something in that. So yeah, love of learning, we need to work a bit harder in the 21st century to protect that somehow through over parenting, over schooling. We are turning children, and if any fans of Sir Ken Robinson will know kind of where I'm coming from, and also where he was coming from. We're turning natural learners, like kids, again on this list is curiosity. Children are curious. Babies, children are curious. Babies, children love learning. Um, they're born absolutely perfect, and then somehow, in that respect, every single baby under the sun has those qualities, and yet somehow we teach it out of them. So that's very interesting. So yeah, it's a real, I understand that wish, of course, to have children that love learning and enjoyment of school. It's another thing that comes up, just wishing that they can enjoy this process. Yeah, A difficult one for a real critic of the school system as I am, and you know, not to be negative and unproductive about that. I don't want to just bang on about the school system particularly, but yeah, it is difficult to get children to enjoy something which is fundamentally not enjoyable. So yeah, maybe I'll just keep it that simple. You know, at a certain age with a certain type of person, I'm afraid we're all up against it with that. So choice of schooling and that kind of thing, making some radical decisions, radical choices perhaps, to just protect your children from this. Yeah, and that you know, that can be done whilst they're going to the school, whilst they're going to the local school. It doesn't have to be some like expensive solution or solution that moves the whole family to some other country or anything. It's really, that's also what I wish for from this group, is to empower what we can do just as parents, you know, in the atmosphere at home, in just our own educating of them. Again, let's not forget that the primary education is at home, always and forever. You know, your primary education in life comes from home, whatever that looks like for you, you know, or for your children. Home can be all kinds of different people, not your parents. You know, it can be wherever you're growing up and whoever those primary influences are. That is your primary education, no question. So that can still have a great influence on participating in a broken education system, if that's also your opinion of it. You know, you can still go to school and get a great deal out of it. My kids do now go to school, which is a complete surprise to me. Never expected that they would go to a regular school, but through circumstances, through the pandemic and moving suddenly to the countryside, you know, they've gone to this local school and they are loving it. You know, for the time being, primary education, I would say, is much easier to get right than secondary. And you know, we do kind of watch the effects, the cumulative effects of a system that believes in reward and punishment and that kind of thing, which is, you know, the effects aren't good down the line. So that said, you know, they are loving it. So there's a great, you know, I do often meet students who really are, somehow they take their own culture into a school where they, you know, they have a strong family background, strong cultural background, and they just can make school work for them. And so that, again, that is a good summary of the work I do with young people. What I wish to do with them is to make school work for them, because there aren't many other options. You know, there aren't many other options. There is home education, of course, that's for some and not for others. Brilliant for some and really not for others. And then, you know, then there's a lot of very difficult options, or quite radical options, challenging options to try and solve that problem. So, but yeah, other things that you said that you wanted to see in your children were engagement and interest at school, kind of goes hand in hand with enjoyment. Confidence in our children. How come our children aren't confident in society? What can we do about that? Yeah, going for goals, children who want to go for some goals, you know, have actual ambitions, or I would sort of redefine that also as just purpose, a general sense of purpose, even if that's day to day, not some sort of big future thing. Again, achieving their potential, another thing here. Following his heart. Yeah, I mean, this is what one parent wrote. I actually really don't know what to say about that one. Of course, I understand it. I totally agree with it in a way. And also, as someone who's kind of done nothing but that probably in my life, I have also seen the pitfalls of that, but you know, not really. But yeah, it's of course I understand just the general wish, but in practical terms, yeah, we need to know something about our purpose before we can just be following our emotions, you know. So that's, I suppose, one alarm bell there with that that wish. Yeah, finding love. I mean, love, I think not romantic love. In this case, it was to do with like love of activities, love of schooling. I mean, this is just because it was because of the context of the question. Finding romantic love is great as well. Safety. staying on a good path. Yeah, there's definitely a few parents I've been in touch with this week where that's much more the emphasis. Is just, wow, staying safe and hoping and wanting to support their children to make good life choices and avoid like serious risks. Finding a career they love, and yeah, just general personal empowerment and responsibility. So yeah, that's the wish list, and it is very interesting just to look at that wish list and just go like, wow, why, like I said, why aren't our kids motivated? Like, what have we done? How can we take responsibility as parents and as an adult community? I also like to look at it like that. You know, we are all educators, teachers. We all also elect to put our children into this school system. We also create the general culture. You know, we are the media, however much we might have a go at the media as well. You know, we sort of drive that demand. So I see that we, like we need to take responsibility for all of that. We are the adult community that is raising these children generally. And so how come they're struggling for motivation? What are we doing that is squashing their love of learning? How come school is so unenjoyable for them? Where's their curiosity gone? Why aren't they confident? You know, why don't they have goals and purpose? These are massive questions which I love to consider. And so that's also a reason for this group, that we can consider these things together. So yeah, the challenges that we face. Again, this is just the last kind of 20 or 30 members. Welcome to you all, by the way, who've come into the group. The challenges that came up were conflict, anger, massive topic and massive consideration for all of us. Conflict, I love the word conflict because it just encompasses everything. For, you know, inner conflict, for example. And yeah, verbal conflict, you know, of course, to the furthest extreme of like actual conflict, physical violence, you know, in the home or out of the home. Discussions leading to no action. One challenge is just like being a parent who is communicating, which is one of my great invitations to you all, and one of the things that I've settled on as really something that every parent should be deeply considering as a solution to everything with teenagers. Communication doesn't mean volume of communication at all. So that's one thing to clear up. Wow, teenagers do not want volume of communication from their parents. You know, most teenagers, you know, and if they do, they'll ask for it. If they really want a discussion, they really want some advice. Yeah, amazing to make yourself available in that way. Yeah, these are all things that I'm going to kind of recommend later. But yeah, briefly, this just said discussions leading to no action. Again, interesting. Time to like change the approach there. If you're doing lots of discussing, like how's that go? Like, I can only imagine kind of how that leads to no action. If it's kind of conditional, these are discussions that are basically leading to you wanting to get a particular result with them, well then, yeah, I can see why most teenagers don't act on that. So discussions need to be open by the time your kids are teenage. You know, you really need to like not have an agenda. If you've got a fixed agenda, you know, you're allowed to have that privately and to yourself. You're allowed to have, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's great to actually, just having said that, you can have all the wishes, but even be careful of like your wishes for your children, you know, like I would keep the wishes really really general, like, you know, happiness, stability, peace, you know, these kinds of things. In a way, those are like universal wishes that any parent would have. Safety, satisfaction, job satisfaction, or whatever it might be. Long list of things that are just kind of obvious, but specific wishes for your child that are yours, not theirs. Very, very dangerous for a parent. So discussions that are meant to lead to them doing something that you want to do, yeah, I can see why that doesn't lead to action. You know, we can all be in a verbal conversation and say things, just because, you know, if we're trapped by a parent who's making us kind of say things, then we'll say whatever, probably to wrap up the discussion so we can get on with our lives. So yeah. I'm trying to bring some humor to something that well, it just is funny in a way. You know, lots of this stuff is funny because we want one thing and we're kind of getting the opposite results, and we're trying so hard in the wrong way. So, you know, we have to laugh at this. Like, there's no standard here with us in Young Fire. I'm not hanging myself up there as some role model parent. We're all in this together. It's difficult. It can go so pear-shaped, so badly wrong for all of us. And we need to just look at like how we can show up differently. So yeah, lots of discussions leading to no action. You know, the one definition of madness is to keep doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. So brilliant little gem for this group. If we are parenting in any way, again and again and again, approaching it in the same way and getting terrible results, and we just keep going like that, we keep trying it, we keep reacting like that, then we need help. We need to put our hand up in to ourselves or in some kind of support group to just go like, I keep doing this thing and I always get an awful reaction. And please do comment if there's anything coming up for you here. We can all have a laugh about it if it's there to be laughed at, you know. It's this form of madness. Yeah. So time to change how we operate and look at how we can do that. Difficult to do, but definitely possible. One parent said, yeah, their child is racing through everything. Now, I take so much from that comment for these times. Yeah, our children, the speed of everything, you know, we need rest so badly. We need restfulness, and we need the capacity. And I'm saying we, like all beings, this is not young people. And also, be warned as parents to focus on young people like they're the ones with all the problems. Let's have a look at how we're showing up and what exactly we're expecting of them. That, you know, we'd better have achieved it already ourselves if we expected of them. So yeah, racing through everything. Yeah, technology is driving a great pace. We really need to help our children through role modeling and through atmosphere at home, and through our own practices to just calm, be, you know, this really is where it's at for me. And in a general kind of layman's sense, just calmness, peace, restfulness. But, you know, personally, I've needed more than just those words to support me to be like that. So, you know, I have a very specific practice. And if that's an area that interests you, you know, you're very welcome to be in touch with me again privately to ask about that. But yeah, you know, as parents, we need to be able to role model how not to race through everything. We need something, probably a tool, some kind of tool, some sort of mechanism, some sort of practice, even if it's just like, you know, deep breaths or something. I don't know, you know, that might really work for you. So I'm not belittling that, but something so that we can first of all role model how not to kind of race through everything, how not to make life this kind of manic kind of rat race, you know. And with technology also, just like bing 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 bing, you know, how to just calm down, how to settle down. Like, this is a massive challenge for me with teaching teenagers just how to get them to carve out 20 minutes of peace to do some really immersive homework, you know, or like a project. So just to be immersed in something in a really profound way, you know, we want to be just banking that kind of learning as much as we can, whatever age we are. But certainly for young people, that capacity to settle down and be safe and still and focused is a real premium. That's a whole course in itself, which I would love to produce. Gaming addiction. Yeah, gaming addiction, and just, I would say, yeah, gaming addiction and lack of purpose. Two go hand in hand. You know, I'm not saying that all gamers lack purpose. Some of them are very purposeful about gaming. But I have definitely seen a pattern in the young people that I've met and worked with, who've shared with me their life experience, that a lack of peer group, a lack of like an unstable or just thin social group, like not too much kind of difficulties socially, basically, and a lack of other interests, like having not developed many outside interests from school, which I think is more or less 100% school's fault, by the way, just to quickly say that. A bit heavy, but yeah, I mean, I think that we educate our young people to have no self-leadership whatsoever, no self-direction. They're just told what to do by a very domineering system. It is changing a little bit, and I hope will continue to change. But that's the result. The result is that our young people just have no outside hobbies or interests. They don't know how to get one off the ground. So yeah, that combination of not having a stable friendship group and not having developed interests really does open up to then gaming addiction. And actually, I mean, even the word addiction is just a bit loaded, but just gaming a lot. You know, if you're living in a world of games, or your kids are living in a gaming kind of world, that is actually, it's a sanctuary as well. Like it actually can be a real sanctuary. So, you know, that it is not cut and dried that like gaming is bad and all other kind of outdoor activities and reading are better. I don't see the world like that at all. It can be a great sanctuary for kids who, you know, they don't find their peer groups easy, and that's also to do with the culture. It's not their fault. It's often not their fault. You know, I think secondary schools are frankly pretty scary places, most of them, and I don't really want my kids to get used to that. I don't think they should learn to be like that and learn to fend for themselves in that kind of institution. You know, when you think of like the worst kind of secondary schools, really, I don't think it's something you know, I don't think we should be putting children through that experience or introducing them to that culture. So you know, being in a game, you are safe, and you know, you can make connections with people there where it's just it's a different kind of relationship, but I don't think it's very limited. I know there's all kinds of profound relationships coming from online connection nowadays in young people and in old. Yeah, conflict with teachers, school conflict with teachers, just teenagers who are falling out with their teachers like that for probably very obvious reasons, just being overly kind of dominated, told what to do, you know, by someone that they don't respect. Yeah, quick summary of why someone would not listen to their teacher or have that conflict going on, and why teachers feel then also like they've got to kind of attack back. It's a fallout, I'm afraid, for everyone. My vision for a classroom would be where the students really know, they're mature enough to know that if they open up to their teachers, they will get the very best out of their teachers, and the whole group would do that together, elevate their teachers to really bring out the best possible from them. And then the teachers can teach. But at the moment, it's just can be just like a war. So you know, that's terrible for the teacher, bound to be getting worse and worse and worse results from that teacher, and it's terrible for the students as well, because they're then just kind of like in a prison institution and looking for ways to entertain themselves that have nothing to do with learning or listening to their teachers. So yeah. Parent fear. Yeah, someone wrote their biggest challenge. This also I thought was very wise. The biggest challenge to getting the results they want with their son is their own fears as a parent. So yeah, I've written such a long list of notes for this live. I think I could be here like 4.5 hours or something, but this was meant to lead into the main, like the foundations for our common culture that we want to create here. And you know, for me, it's come from being a parent and teaching for 20 years and just paying a lot of attention to young people and education. Trust, number one, trust. Trust is just it spreads through everything. I hear it in business, in all areas of life, like trusting our children, but trusting each other as the way to absolutely enable our potential. And without trust, there's really a great limit there for what we can achieve. So number one, trust. Also openness, especially just thinking of teenagers here, especially openness to them and the way they show up, what they say, how they want to act, what they want to do now, and their own leadership. Respect, and for us to demonstrate that respect for them, and no longer kind of being the boss, and hopefully not being the boss in the first place as a parent of a child of any age. Communication, like I mentioned, just communication is just absolutely huge, and love is all of these kind of relate to each other: trust, openness, respect, communication, and love. But when we are fearful of lots of things, and we know we're getting in the way as a parent, you know, that is a time to really take what this talk was going to be called, which was the leap of faith. I've always thought about it in those terms, that when you're a parent of a teenager, you need to make a leap of faith. If you're the parent of a teenager that is holding on to old ways and seeing the terrible results of kind of clinging on to a parenting model that isn't trusting, open, respectful, and open in the communication sense as well, and loving, and sort of releasing them, you know, releasing young people into a new way of operating. In fact, moving your whole family into a new way of operating. Yeah, then this leap of faith is needed, and it really is a leap of faith. It's not easy to do. You're leaping into the unknown. It's kind of counterintuitive. Just at the time when your teenagers are beginning to take real risks, you've got to let them go. So that's a good image to hold in mind. It's like, wow, just when you kind of, just when the stakes are really uncomfortably high, they're going out and they're doing whatever they're doing, and you don't even know, you know, that's when you've got to let them go. So yeah, one parent also said on the way into the group that she has no influence anymore. Teenagers not listening to her, no interest in her, only in his mates. How common is that? I mean, just first of all, know that you're in it with millions of other, that is the teenager's predisposition to want to be in the peer group. And yeah, depending on how that journey's gone for you as a parent, you know, it can be quite extreme, where suddenly they just like they cannot stand it anymore. And you can be the most loving and caring and even a brilliant parent, and just have a child who just, that's their trajectory. They need, and you have to honor that. I mean, that there must have been some sense of not giving enough time, space, trust, openness, respect, not communicating in the right ways beforehand for there to be this sense of like, I am gone. But don't give yourself a hard time about that. Just know that they really, really need that, give that time and space. So the juggle here is going to be also with their safety, obviously. Just, you know, you can't, there's no extreme. The bottom of this, these notes just says no extreme. There is no extreme in just like suddenly letting them go, just like abandoning them. I'm not suggesting abandonment at all. Being present as a mother or father of a teenager is just a much more subtle art form. It's not actually usually a physical presence or much communication in a verbal sense, usually. So yeah, here's my quick tips. I've been going on for a long time, so I'm going to just give 5 minutes of what we can do about this to try and, you know, remember the first list of like motivation, love of learning, confidence, enjoyment of school, like, and yeah, everything that I've spoken about so far feeds into this. One thing we can do is wind down the micromanagement. Like, if it's a good phrase because it really resonates with most people. You know, we need to just stop managing them. We need to stop taking responsibility for things that are theirs to take responsibility for, like schoolwork, for example. Just easing off. No extreme, don't go to the other extreme, although you can do. Sometimes it is good to just go, listen, this is your responsibility. I'm not going to fuss about it anymore. If the school kicks you out, then that's your own, that's up to you. But actually that does sound a bit extreme. You want to show that you care, you want to be there for them and navigate that with them. But at the same time, let them make mistakes, especially the mistakes that don't really matter. And I actually think lots of exams don't matter. Like some of the bigger ones, yeah, I can see that's hard for parents in this day and age, but there would be a great lesson there. And there has been, I've seen it. Kids crashing and burning in their GCSEs, and then bam, A levels, suddenly they've like really seen what a mess they made, and they've got it together. They've matured a bit late, they've been over parented or over schooled for GCSEs, or they've just been in the wrong space for them, and then they've pulled it together because they've had a mighty shock in their big exams. And once you've got your A levels, no one cares what your GCSEs are really. Once you've got a degree, it depends. There's some specific like maths, whatever, science for particular careers, or things can suddenly be useful from GCSEs again. But take the point of just winding down the micromanagement and letting them make some mistakes, and let them get that flack from school or even from the police if that's kind of where you're at. That can be a useful lesson for them to take it out of your responsibility. Ease up on dominating through criticism, judgment, and blame. And I've written down here that I told you so kind of vibe, spoken and unspoken from a parent. Watch out for that. Don't get into wars with your kids where suddenly doing the right thing becomes proving you right. That's going to really piss your kids off if you've got them in that position where they're, excuse my language, if they do what you want them to do, then they're proving you right after a long simmering kind of conflict with you over this. Wow, don't do that. Be on the same team in any way you can with them. Think that's clear enough. Number 3, keep communicating with them. Communicating. I'm just going to read through some of these things you can do. Create the right forum for discussion. Create the right circumstance where you would actually speak to each other, because this is not easy with teenagers. My son, he says he wants to go on an ice cream date with me. I don't care that that's like his way of getting an ice cream. That's the time he wants to spend with me. So, he wants me to drive him to somewhere, get an ice cream, and then we can talk, then we can be connected. That's fine. That's great if that's what they want. And this goes back to something we talked about before in this group of just making dates with your children where they choose how do they want to spend time with you. Going and getting an ice cream, play a game of tennis, go and watch a film, whatever they want to do. That's a great time for then possible discussions before, during, after, where everyone's relaxed and well and feeling happy with each other. Then you might talk about some serious things. I wouldn't don't contrive it. And the best is if they come out with it naturally in that circumstance. But ask them if you can help. Ask them what they think about whatever it is. What do they think? This is a great new lever to start pulling as a parent, is genuinely, openly saying, like, this is a bit of a situation that we've got ourselves into. Like, what is the best solution? Like, let's make a plan. Can I help you with your plan? And role model to them solution orientation, not victimhood, because teens love to play that out. Parents also love to play that out, the victimhood thing. We don't realize we're doing it sometimes, but go for the solutions. Let's not fester in this conflict. What's a good solution for us? What can we do? And let's not avoid it. Keep it vague and just not know. Keep trundling on, harming each other. Let's find a solution. Make life their responsibility. So it is. By the time they're 14, 15, it's beginning to be very much their responsibility. So, it's not a full handover, but it's got to be a partial handover, starting with them just to take responsibility for certain elements and, making a success of that, seeing the empowerment in that, them seeing the empowerment in that, I mean, and you then being able to like, wow, kick back. Some parents I feel are slightly kind of clinging on to the role, so like also like give yourself something else to do. Don't yeah, you know, that is a trap for parents. Just make sure you're busy enough with your own life to not make them the perpetual focus. Cut them loose and cut yourself loose as well. You know, it's coming anyway. You don't want to cling on to your kids. I know it's very hard to let go as well sometimes. Easy to say, hard to do, but it's necessary, absolutely necessary. Yeah, ask them what their ideal day looks like, you know, so that they can start to see what are the nourishing activities in their lives. I'm specifically thinking of like phone users, gamers, that kind of thing. And again, they don't want to be proved wrong, so watch out for this. But you know, if there are ways that you can help them with that, those kind of boundaries, and they might say, some of them might say, wow, my phone's driving me crazy, you know, especially after lockdown. Phone and technology, they've all had quite a binge on it, I would think. So in fact, I know. So, you know, it's quite a good time to start talking about mental health in an open way. Must be done in the right way. And if you're not the right person to do it, get someone else in to talk to them about it. If it's too provocative between you, then don't do it. Don't start lecturing on about mental health and phone usage. The point is to get them to reflect on it, to draw their own conclusions. And if you can be that forum where they can talk about that and say, yeah, I am actually, I'm like, really, I don't know what else to do with myself. This, I think, is true for a lot of young people. They don't actually really know what to do with themselves other than reach for the phone or get back in the game. It's a lack of confidence to be able to spend life in other ways, to be able to develop and engage with other activities. Like I say, not their fault, I don't think. I think they've been educated in that way. So help them if you can to find their own conclusions, to don't be in the way. That's the big thing for parents, not to prove them wrong or anything about mental health or phone usage or gaming or anything. Have them draw their own conclusions there. Yeah. Ask them if they want, and yeah, and normalize their experience as teenagers. But communication, I'll just keep it very simple like that. Role modeling is point number 4. Role model, you know, look at yourself as well, and like what you're actually role modeling to them. You know, can you expect them to take up these behaviors if you're not taking them up yourself? No. So make it easy for them to participate in your healthy activities. If you're role modeling ways that you spend your time, let them jump in, cook with you, you know, play sports with you, or just let them join in with you. Make it easy for them to do that, because it's very awkward when you're a teenage to do that in some ways. Let them have the responsibility. For example, going out times, being able to go out later, bedtimes later, you know, managing their own days, their own homework flow, their own gaming times, like any of that sort of slack you can feed them, great. If they can take it up, have them take on responsibility. That's what you want. You know, you want them to be able to lead their own lives and make their own decisions. And you've got to allow them also to get that wrong, maybe for a few weeks or for a few months, even maybe even a long time. It can be like 6 months of like really not what you think is best for them, but them like seeing the repercussions of that, whatever that behavior is. And like I say, no extremes. I hope this talk's been really clear that there's no extremes here. We're not abandoning our children or anything. That's not empowerment or liberation either. So, you know, we're in it together here to shift parental culture into one of complete trust, honor, and fundamentally empowerment for our children and for ourselves.